The things you own end up owning you, Marcus Aurelius. The truth that hurts is not because it's dramatic, it's because it's silent and deeply personal. It's the moment you realize she doesn't appreciate you, even though you loved with all your heart, gave everything you had. Your kindness, your patience, your sacrifices, even your dreams. What did you get in return? Indifference in her eyes, cold silence, the feeling that you're just a backup plan, be someone ready to be replaced. You stay awake at night, searching for an answer. What did I do wrong? Where was I not enough? Or maybe love just wasn't meant for me? But my friend, sometimes it's not because you're not enough, but because she's not deep enough to see your true value. People can't appreciate what their minds aren't mature enough to understand. He who is not a good servant will not be a good master. Plato. You once thought if you loved enough, she'd respond. But life doesn't run on sincerity. It runs on awareness. And when a woman no longer recognizes who you are, no matter how much you pour your heart out, she only sees you as a given. More painful than parting ways is being next to someone who no longer sees your worth. You're not abandoned by a clear ending. You're abandoned bit by bit, every day. But then, everything changes. When you go silent, when you walk away, no accusations, no last messages, no pleading cries. You disappear. In the silence of a man who has understood that, not everyone you love deserves to stay in your life. When someone shows you who they are, believe them the first time. Epictetus, because sometimes what hurts a woman the most is when the man who was once there suddenly becomes a stranger, silent and unreachable. 1. When you stop explaining, she no longer judges your life. Silence is not surrender, it's the highest form of strength. When you no longer need to be understood, you freed yourself. There was a time when you always felt judged. Every time she was cold, you ask yourself what you did wrong. Every time she was angry, you hurried to apologize even when you were right. You wrote long messages explaining every little detail as if you were in a courtroom. And she was the judge, prosecutor, and jury all at once. She misunderstood me. I didn't mean it that way. I'm sorry if I hurt you. You thought if you were patient enough to explain, she'd understand. If you were gentle enough, sincere enough, she'd change. But you were wrong. She didn't want the truth. She wanted power. And every time you pushed yourself to justify, she only reinforced one thing. You need her approval to exist. You tortured yourself, sleepless, chewing over every word. I don't feel connected to you anymore. You always do things your way. I'm tired of repeating myself and you don't get it. You immediately doubted yourself. Are you too careless? Not romantic enough? Missing something other men have? But you didn't realize the problem isn't right or wrong. It's that you gave her the power to judge your worth. You lived as if her approval was the air you breathed. You acted as if her forgiveness was the light you needed to survive. Until one day you stopped, not because you were angry, not because you wanted revenge, because you were exhausted. You realized you no longer wanted to justify what was obvious, that you loved with all your heart. And when you stop explaining, the silence inside you becomes what confuses her the most. No more apologies, no long explanatory messages, no pleading eyes, please understand me. You just look straight ahead, say nothing, and walk away. The more you try to explain yourself to people who are committed to misunderstanding you, the more you betray yourself. She panics, but doesn't say it, because she's used to you having to earn your place back. Used to your anxiety after every conflict. Used to you being the one who comes running, explaining, holding on. Not anymore. You say nothing. And that silence hits her illusion of power the hardest. Silence forces people to face their inner voice, and that's scarier than any words. You no longer need to be understood. You don't need anyone to see your effort to validate your worth. You don't need her anymore to feel worthy, because you have gone beyond. You understand who you are, and no one, not even the one you love most, has the right to define you. So what happens then? She starts texting back, not because you reached out, but because your silence becomes an uncomfortable void. She starts feeling loss without knowing exactly what she lost, because what she lost wasn't a man. It was the feeling of power she once held. Stoic lesson. The wise do not try to convince the blind of the light. The awakened do not explain their soul to those too shallow to understand. When you stop explaining, you don't become silent. You become untouchable. 2. When you choose peace, she loses control over the chaos. A truly strong man is not the one who wins every argument, but the one who refuses to let others' emotions steal his peace. You once thought love meant always being there when she needs you, calming her when she's sad, comforting her when she's mad for no reason. You thought if you were patient enough, tolerant enough, forgiving enough, she'd understand. But you were wrong. She doesn't need you to heal her. She needs you to react. She tests you with silence. She drags you into fights just to confirm you still care. She's angry not for reasons, but because she needs you to prove you'll do anything to soothe her. You fell into the trap. Every time she's upset, you drop work to call. You rush out at midnight for a message. I feel awful. You cancel weekends just because she's sulking. You thought that was love, but to her, it's proof she controls your emotions. And then one day, you stop. You don't argue. You don't push back. You just say, I know you're not feeling well, but I won't continue this conversation like this. I'm going for a walk. When you're calm, we'll talk again. I don't agree with this tone. You stop reacting according to the script. Stop letting her emotions control your actions. And when you do that, she panics. Not because she's losing you, because she's losing the ability to manipulate you through feelings. Those who live by controlling others fear calmness the most. She starts sending messages like, you've changed. You're not the same anymore. You're cold. But you know, you're not cold. You're just no longer playing her emotional game. You are quiet now. Not avoiding, not running, simply setting boundaries. And those boundaries make her realize chaos is no longer her power tool. 3. When you stop competing for her time, she begins to fear. A truly strong man isn't the one chosen, but the one who knows his worth so well, he doesn't need to prove it to anyone. You used to be the one who always initiated, the one planning dates, the one asking, are you free? The one sending funny memes to keep the connection alive. You did it all believing, if I give enough, she'll appreciate me. If I'm always the one to reach out, she'll see I care. But then you realize you're the only one trying, and she's used to you making all the effort. You wait all day for a reply. You feel like you're waiting in line on her priority list. You put her first, while she only puts you in the if I'm free category. You're not her lover. You're an advanced fan. Then one morning, you stop texting. Not because you're angry, because you're tired. You stop asking. Stop probing feelings. Stop finding reasons to stay in her world. You start living your life. You put your phone aside, focus on work, go out with friends without checking messages, post stories without expecting her to watch. And that's when she feels empty. Not because she lost a man, because she lost a loyal fan, someone who was always there. Your absence makes her feel your value most clearly, and she starts accidentally texting you, accidentally tagging you in stories, accidentally checking in after a week of silence. But you're not there anymore. You're not angry, not retaliating. You simply don't need the attention anymore. You've become a man no longer bought with drip-fed approval. 4. When you stop responding to mixed signals, the game ends and you win. Controllers always use ambiguity like chains. Until you stop pulling. She was a master of the hot and cold game. Sweet one day, cold the next. Open one day, silent the next. You analyzed every expression, every emoji, every gap between messages. You thought, maybe she's busy. Maybe I upset her. Maybe I need to try harder. You chased maybes, letting her lead completely. Then you woke up. You realized this isn't confusion, it's control. You started not reacting, stopped replying immediately, stopped asking what's wrong, stopped softening every time she missed a beat. You're not cold, you're just done playing. And that's when she panics. Not because you disappeared, but because her tricks no longer work. Nothing scares a manipulator more than a subject who can no longer be manipulated. You're no longer easily shaken. You become a wall of silence, and she doesn't know what to do. 5. When you smile without her, she realizes she's no longer the center. The man who smiles after being hurt is the man no one can break again. You used to think your joy depended on her. You only felt alive when she was happy. You were emotionally dependent so much you forgot who you really were. You were like that. But then you went out. You went out without sending her pictures. You met friends, focused on work, read books, exercised. You smiled, truly, not to make her jealous, not to show her you're fine. You smiled because you were reborn. And when she saw that, it hurt her, because for the first time, she saw you living a life without her in it. When you don't need them anymore, that's when they see you as unique. Peace doesn't come when the world around you is silent, but when your mind is no longer controlled by it. Epictetus, you have lived long days carrying a love unappreciated. You have screamed in silence, hoped in despair, lived just to be recognized by someone. But then you stopped, not because you were weak, not because you were hopeless, because you understood. No one has the right to define your worth, except you. You withdrew not for revenge, but to return. Return to the man inside you, the one forgotten chasing someone who never saw him. You no longer need to prove anything. No need for approval, no need for apologies, because your silence is the answer. The best revenge is not to be like your enemy, Marcus Aurelius. You don't resist. You don't complain. You simply live fully, with an inner light that was hidden for too long. You are silent, but inside you roar. A deep freedom, an irreversible growth. And if she realizes, if one day she comes back, knocking in the door of your mind in regret, smile and keep walking, because you're no longer there. Not the man who tried to be loved, but the man who learned to love himself. Let silence be your answer. Let peace be your presence. Let your departure be the greatest lesson she ever learned. If you've ever been through this, if you've ever awakened in pain, the one word, silence. Let it echo in the hearts of other men as a declaration. A Stoic man doesn't need to win arguments. He wins when he's no longer bound by anything, except himself.